Hello there.
Hello there.
Those anti-Semite Hamas-supporting pro-so-called Palestine agitators have been exposed for what they really are. Just as those Hamas terrorists were murdering their way through Israel on the 7th of October 2023, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, the PSC, was on the blower to the Met Police, organising an anti-Israeli march for the following Saturday. That's right, while their mates were wandering around killing and other obscene activities, the PSC was already there trying to whitewash and start the propaganda to blame it on the Jews. They were planning to march against the victims and already had their placards and slogans ready. I've had it with these terrorist supporters, Richard. What about you?
Absolutely, Jeff. This is beyond the pale. I mean, if this is the big if this organization, this counter-protesters knew almost, let's face it, it does sound like if they did know in advance of what was about to take place, whilst it was going on, even whilst it was going on is sick enough, but if they knew in advance, that's very worrying. That could mean that they are somehow entrenched with a prescribed terrorist organization in the UK. All right, then. Will there be any investigation into this organization? Will there? That's what I want to know, because if not, this is not just two-tier now. This would be, I can't use the words actually because it would get me into hot water. But I think you know what I'm talking about. This would have taken things a little step further than anyone could possibly accept. Anybody could possibly accept. And I do have one or two other points I'd like to raise, considering the fact that the left wing of politics is so utterly entrenched with the pro-Palestinian mob. It would not be unreasonable to ask if anyone in the UK authorities, right at the top, I'm talking about, knew in advance about the atrocity that took place in Israel on October the 7th. I don't think that's, an unreasonable question to ask. I mean, even if Keir Starmer denied knowing anything, that would mean nothing to us in light of what happened after Southport and the government's changing narrative surrounding it. But I mean, how can this be ignored? I mean, all those people who got sucked into the pro-Palestinian, I shouldn't say pro-Palestinian, I need to rephrase it. So please excuse me if I remove all pro-Palestinian from my previous dialogue. I should say pro-Hamas. Okay? Yeah. So I wonder if these people, who are middle-class whites in the UK who've been, wearing their Palestinian flags draped around them in an incredibly massive display of virtue signaling, if they know now this, are they going to backtrack? Or are they going to still continue to say Hamas is a freedom-fighting, organization? Jeff?
Well, that's a silly question. We know exactly where they're going to go. They're going to double down. They're not going to actually state they support Hamas because they know that's illegal against the law. Now, the PSC said they had to do this, had to organise this first demonstration the following Saturday after the 7th. They had to do it because they knew Israel would be forced to go into Gaza hard to defend itself. Yes, they knew that was what was going to have to happen, so they thought they'd get their propaganda in first. And they did it quite successfully for the useful idiots out there that support them in London. And then all those claims that came out, it wasn't actually Hamas. The Israelis did it to themselves. Do you remember all those conspiracy theories? Or that the Israelis knew it was coming, but wanted carnage so they could then have an excuse to go into Gaza. I think the last thing they wanted to do was go into Gaza. But our pro-Hamas useful woke idiots sucked it up. Hook, line, sinker, boat and jetty. The whole caboodle. And they were marching well before the full-scale invasion of Gaza by the IDF on the 27th of October. Although the IDF had actually gone in a bit, put some boots on the ground to start things going earlier than that, the actual invasion didn't start until the 27th, but they'd been marching for a couple of weeks before that. I just find the whole timing thing absolutely, it's just, I don't know, sleazy and full of all sorts of underhand goings on by both sides. I think both our establishment and the Palestine supporters. So I don't. And then the final straw for me is when people started putting up little photographs and leaflets about the victims. What did those pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas people do? They removed them because they didn't want the propaganda going against them. So they removed them and they went round and we let them, not we, our establishment let them remove them. I just find this whole thing reprehensible. And now that we find out that the Met got the phone call while the killing was going on, they should have said no. It's too incendiary at the moment. They could quite have happily done that. Sadiq Khan could have stopped it. He could have said, no, there's carnage going on in Gaza and we're not going to have this now. We're going to stop this here. It's not going to happen until things have calmed down. Anyway.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Jeff. Just going to throw something completely left field in here now, actually, and that is: did you know about the red heifers?
No, yeah, go on.
Okay. Now this is quite a crazy thing to think about, but so one of the reasons cited allegedly by Hamas, okay, in the background, this is coming from quite reliable sources, is the reason that they went in when they did is because they'd heard that Israel has now taken possession of 5 red heifers. All right. Now, these 5 red heifers, in order to reconsecrate a new temple, a 3rd temple in Jerusalem, it requires the ashes of a pure, was it 1 or 2 pure-blooded and pure in their coat red heifers with not, I think they can't have more than 2 white hairs on their entire body, otherwise this cannot take place. Okay. Now then, historically, they haven't been able to find one. They haven't been able to, for years, this is going back since the 1940s, I believe, they haven't found a red heifer that matched up to the requirements. All of a sudden, they have 5. Okay, 5 have appeared, and they are now in Israel. And apparently, out of fear that Israel would be about to build over the mosque there in Jerusalem, I can't remember the name of it. My brain's gone to sleep. I'll kick myself later. It'll just trip off my tongue later. Anyway, out of fear that mosque would be removed and a 3rd temple will be built, a 3rd Jewish Israeli temple will be built. That is why the timing took. That's why they did. I don't know the truth of it, but there's a lot of strong evidence supporting that. So yeah, right. I just thought I'd have to add that in because it's quite an important thing. Because there are things going on right now. You can see that these chants of from the river to the sea are nothing but pure evil and satanic. Okay. That's what you have to remember. What we have here is a battle of good and evil. And I'm not actually saying fully that Israel is good either. I support them in many things, but some of their actions, a little questionable as well, okay? It has to be said, you can criticize, At the end of the day, I support Israel, 100%. But there are things going on. There is good and evil at play here. And what's just happened with Gaza, with Trump, I mean, that's very interesting. It does actually sound like the best option for Israel and for the people of Gaza, because it sounds like they will be repatriated
somewhere.
And also, well, the thing is, Somalia apparently is one place that's been mooted about at the moment, but I don't know the truth of that. It's probably one place that's an option. And what kind of what's the word I'm looking for? What kind of provision will be in place for them when they get there? It could be a lot better than what they're currently living through, because what they have got to go back to is basically a bomb site with unexploded munitions and goodness knows who knows what. And here's the other interesting thing that Trump said, which he didn't say, I'm going to give Gaza to Israel, did he? He said, we're taking it
No.
over. What
Yeah.
happens later on with Gaza? Nobody knows. Everyone's just assuming it's going to go to Israel. I'd say in terms of probability, that might be the likelihood. But very interesting times. But yes, I mean, if you've got these people running around London, right, with prior knowledge of what was going to take place, these people, I'm sorry, that there's a case that they could be engaging in terrorist activity or have knowledge of terrorist activity without going to the authorities. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It's all dodgy, isn't it? Very dodgy. I mean, the newspaper reports say that at 12:50 on that's 10 to 1 in the afternoon on the day of the 2023 terror attack, whilst it was still ongoing, the PSC, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, notified the Metropolitan Police that they intended to hold a protest. And by the time that the PSC spoke to the police, Hamas had already taken hostages and killed hundreds of people across towns and villages in the next to the Gaza Strip. And videos had been circulated on social media showing all of this, showing the taking of the Israeli hostages on those motorbikes into Gaza and worse.
Yes.
And according to the Telegraph, a spokesman for the Met said, the Met was contacted on Saturday, October the 7th, at approximately 12:50 via telephone call and informed of the intention to protest. The Met committed this to our systems on the same day and are satisfied being contacted by telephone was a sufficient means in which to notify the MPS as the event was taking place 7 days after the notification. Now, as I've already said, why didn't they stop it? Why did they just accept it and go, right, let's just go ahead? They must have had an inkling of the sheer terror of what was going on, and then holding a pro-Palestine march right across London. What do you think that's going to do to the Jewish population in this country? What an utterly, ridiculously stupid decision. Khan and whoever his sidekick in the police was at the time, I can't even remember now. Oh, dear me, what's his name? Is it the latest one or the one before? I can't remember now, it's that far back. But ye gods, they should never have allowed it. Anyway, that's just my view.
Well,
now,
I'm with you there, Jeff.
Yeah. Dave Rich, the head of policy at the Community Security Trust, a charity that protects British Jews from terrorism and anti-Semitism, because, of course, we need that in the modern UK, don't we? Well, he said, it's hard to comprehend that while Jews around the world watched with horror as a pogrom took place in Israel on October the 7th, the ghouls at PSC saw the exact same images and thought, let's have an anti-Israel demo. Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. I just think that the Jews in this country have been let down comprehensively by the establishment, either through stupidity or by design. And I'll leave you to decide which of those it is. Well,
Jeff, I mean, you can't go too critical of our government and authorities here, because at the end of the day, they have now decided to put in place something to deal with this, which is the new Council on Islamophobia. Yes, that is the best way, of course, to deal with the issue of the persecution of the Jews in Britain right now. That's what I'm seeing. I'm hearing it all the time. I say I'm hearing it all the time. I am actually noticing something. I'm seeing a lot of people standing up for the Jews in this country. We do have an incredible split in this country, even though I'd say most people in this country are sensible and do understand what took place on October the 7th. But I will say this, there is a split, because there are people in this country right now who do believe that what happened on October the 7th was a good thing. And most of those people, I believe, actually there have been what you would call it, polls on this say most. There's a good, an unhealthy percentage of people do believe that what happened on October the 7th was justifiable, and that is very scary.
Yeah.
A disproportionate number of a certain
Woke.
demographic. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, woke lefties as well. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, did you see what's taking place in the American campuses over this?
Yeah.
That was disgusting. You know, you had Jewish, and in this country, funny enough, in Oxford as well, but you have had, Jewish lecturers and dons within universities being persecuted. And what are you doing? What did we allow to happen to this country? There is a reversal taking place. Thankfully, definitely in America. Okay, things are changing. You won't see many people with placards saying "From the river to the sea" from here on in America. That's not going to happen.
No.
Thank goodness.
No, they're all going to come over. They're all going to come over here to do it.
Yeah.
Because we've got people in power, in places of power, that absolutely rely on a certain demographic to give them that power.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've said enough. And but as I say, this story coming out today, it just reinforces and cements into place all the fears that I had at the beginning, that everything was too well dovetailed by the pro-Hamas supporters at the beginning to be anything, it's not a coincidence. There are too many coincidences. So there you go. Anyway, and on that note, I shall say it's a good afternoon from me.
And before I say good afternoon, please like, subscribe, press the all option. That's very important right now, so that you can get a notification every time we put up a new video. And also, leave a little comment below. Let's have a little read of what you think about what we've been chatting about here. Okay? Take care and good afternoon, and we shall see you later. Bye for now.
Good afternoon.